Welcome to EduCasts, home of EduCasters. You can't talk about connectivism without talking about the MOOC, massive open online course. But I'm not talking about the ones you see today on Coursera or edX. In 2008, Siemens and Downs wanted to prove their theory worked. They launched a course called CCK08, Connectivism and Connective Knowledge. They had about 25 students enrolled for credit at the University of Manitoba. But then, they opened it up to the internet for free. Over 2,200 people signed up. But here is the kicker. There was no central class. They didn't just post video lectures for everyone to watch. That's the cognitivist model, transmitting info. Instead, they told the students, go create. Students wrote blog posts on their own websites. They discussed things on Twitter. They met in Second Life, a virtual world. They created wikis. The course wasn't the content Siemens gave them. The course was the aggregation of everything the 2,200 students were creating. Siemens and Downs acted as aggregators, sending out a daily newsletter highlighting the best discussions happening across the web. This was a CMOOC, Connectivist MOOC. It was chaotic, messy, and overwhelming. Students complained, I can't keep up with everything. Siemens replied, you aren't supposed to. You don't read the whole internet. You swim in the stream and pick out what you need. This stands in sharp contrast to the XMOOCs like Harvard X or Coursera that came later. XMOOCs are just traditional college classes put on a screen, watch a video, take a quiz. That is not connectivism. That is just old-school instruction with a better distribution method. CMOOCs were a radical experiment in networked learning. If the teacher isn't the source of knowledge, does the teacher essentially become useless? Absolutely not. But the job description changes entirely. In a connectivist model, the teacher is no longer the sage on the stage, behaviorism, or even the guide on the side, constructivism. The teacher becomes the network administrator and the curator. 1. Modeling network behavior. The teacher shows students how to be a node. They blog, they tweet. They show students how to verify sources, how to reach out to experts, and how to deal with trolls. They model digital citizenship, not as a set of rules, but as a way of being. 2. Pattern recognition and amplification. The teacher watches the network the students are building. When they see a student make a brilliant connection, they amplify it. They share it with the rest of the class. They point out patterns. Hey, did you notice that Sarah's blog post about biology totally contradicts Mike's video about ethics? Let's talk about that tension. 3. Teaching wayfinding. The internet is a forest. The teacher is the ranger. They don't walk the path for you, but they teach you how to read a compass. They teach you how to distinguish between a credible study and a fake news article. They teach the literacy of the network. 4. Creating the ecology. The teacher's job is to create the environment where connections can happen. They choose the platforms, Slack, Discord, blogs, wikis, that allow for the easiest flow of information. They nurture the community so that people feel safe enough to share incomplete ideas. Connectivism is optimistic. It assumes that connecting to more people makes us smarter. But we have learned some hard lessons about the internet in the last decade that challenge this optimism. The echo chamber effect. Connectivism says we should connect to diverse viewpoints, but human nature says we like to connect to people who agree with us. If a student builds a network of only people who share their political or social views, the network reinforces bias instead of challenging it. This is homophily. Birds of a feather flock together. A connectivist teacher has to actively fight this by forcing collisions with opposing views. The algorithm as a bad teacher. We mentioned that algorithms are nodes, but algorithms like the ones on TikTok or YouTube are designed for engagement, not truth. If a student learns by connecting to YouTube's recommendation engine, they might be led down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories because that keeps them watching. Connectivism has to grapple with the fact that some nodes in the network are toxic and manipulative. The Matthew effect, the rich get richer. In a network, the nodes that already have the most connections tend to get even more. Everyone follows the celebrity, nobody follows the beginner. In a connectivist classroom, the loud, confident students can dominate the network, while the quiet, shy students get lost in the noise. The teacher has to work hard to ensure the network is equitable. Let's put it all in perspective. How does this compare to the other theories we've discussed? Behaviorism is about reaction. I do this, you do that. It is great for basic skills and safety procedures. Cognitivism is about processing. How do I structure this info? It is great for complex problem solving and foundational knowledge. Constructivism is about meaning. How does this fit my world? It is great for deep understanding and personal growth. Connectivism is about navigation. Where is the answer? It is vital for staying current in a fast-changing world. Critics often argue that connectivism isn't really a learning theory. They say it's just a pedagogical view. They argue you still need cognitivism to actually understand the stuff you find on the network. You can't just connect to a calculus textbook and suddenly know math. You still have to do the internal cognitive work. This is true. Connectivism doesn't replace the other theories. It wraps around them. You might use connectivism to find the information, cognitivism to process it, and constructivism to make sense of it. We are never going back to the way things were. The amount of information in the world is doubling at a rate that is terrifying and exciting. The rugged individual model of learning, the idea that you can go to school for 12 years, pack your brain full of facts, and then coast for the rest of your life, is dead. Connectivism is the only theory that looks this reality in the eye. It admits that we are small and the world is big. It admits that we cannot know everything, but it offers a solution. We don't have to know everything if we are connected to the people and the tools that do. For an educator, this is a liberating shift. You don't have to be the encyclopedia anymore. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be the master connector. You have to teach your students that they are not isolated islands of intelligence, but nodes in a vast, global, pulsing brain. And their power comes not from what they hoard, but from what they share.